The state health department says a chemist there was faking water quality tests. They discovered the problem in February and chose not to tell the public. About 3% of the state's drinking water sources are now being retested for barium, chromium, and copper. Tonight, 9 News investigates why the state chose not to tell anybody. Here's Steve Steger.
The issue is that the high-quality analyses that people paid for weren't done according to EPA standards and cast the conclusions in doubt.
It began with an anomaly, something not adding up inside the state's water quality lab back in February. CDPHE tells 9 News investigates now that a manager back then started looking into a chemist's work and found intentional disregard for protocol around one specific test that looks for traces of metals like copper, chromium, and barium in drinking water. That investigation started in February, but by April, the EPA noted the state still hadn't determined the scope of the problem and had no plan in place to notify the public water systems that may have been impacted that there was a problem. The EPA revoked the state lab certification to do that testing.
So it's going to take a long time to sort through how far back these errors are, what is the impact.
Mark Edwards is a civil engineering professor at Virginia Tech who helped uncover a crisis in Flint, Michigan, where public water was contaminated with lead. We asked him to look over the documents that 9 News investigates obtained through an open records request. He says the problem here is control data appears to be what's falsified, meaning there's really no way to tell if old tests were accurate.
One of the tragedies here is we really don't know. I mean, did the people who submit those samples get told their water was safe when it wasn't? In which case it could cause an acute health risk, or maybe these errors are inconsequential.
The state health department told us there's no evidence of any acute risk to public health and stressed this data problem only impacted about 3% of Colorado's public water systems. But they told the EPA they found problems in data dating back 5 years and originally noticed problems in June of 2022. But didn't do anything about it.
Unfortunately, science is based on trust, and when you're paid as a lab technician, it's assumed that folks don't cheat. And unfortunately, we're getting more and more examples of cheating in laboratory analyses.
So far, we know this impacted 69 of the state's 2,000 or so water systems. We know that because about 10 minutes before we went on the air here, we got a list of them from CDPHE. They include several small towns like Nucla and Aguilar and Bethune, and some schools too, middle schools and elementary schools. We're going to put the full list in the digital version of this story on 9news.com. The EPA tells us while these issues are serious, this again doesn't mean that there was something wrong with the water, just that there's unusable data that can't confirm the water quality met federal standards at the time, Kyle. So they're urging caution. Don't read too much into this, but still a lot we don't know.
I feel like how many times have we been here, right? Somebody makes a mistake, screws up badly, and then the question is, are you going to tell people right away, or are you going to sit on it? What, they found out in February?
They found out in February, notified the EPA about that 2 months later, and then we just learned today that those 69 water districts, some of them learned in August, others learned in October. So that's 6 and 8 months after this initial problem was noticed.
Steve Steger, thank you.
Yep.